Welcome to the field botany class on the mustard family. Well, you would think, this being on the mustard family, that I'd be surrounded by mustard plants, but no, I'm in my happy place during COVID times. This is Humphreys Valley, and these are lupins, different family. But we're about to go into the PowerPoint, so I hope you'll join me for that. So more appropriately, here is a picture of a plant in the mustard family. This is actually broccoli that's gone to flower. But the mustard family is scientifically called the Brassicaceae. As you already know, the ACEAE ending is a scientific family name for plant families. The old name that you might still encounter in books is the Cruciferae. And you can sort of get an idea of why that is, because the flowers have sort of a cross shape, but we will go with the Brassicaceae. So looking at the Brassicaceae, let's talk a little bit about non-flower things first. Okay, so this is a eudicot family, a true dicot, not a monocot. They're mostly herbs, but they can also be some shrubs. The leaves can be basal, but usually you have basal and cauline ones, that are leaves that are on the stem. They're alternate when they're on the stem, that is one per node or one per height on the stem. And they're simple, although I put this on the screen here so you can see that there's often quite a bit of indentation or lobing on the leaves, but they're still considered simple and not compound. Now, the inflorescence, that is the grouping of flowers, is a raceme. And as you learned in a previous video, a raceme is an indeterminate inflorescence. It can keep on growing to produce new flowers. You see the flower buds at the top here. And you have your flowers dispersed along the main stem, and each with a little pedicel, a little flower stalk. So being indeterminate and just having one main stem with each flower having a pedicel coming off at different locations, that makes this a raceme. Sometimes there are branched racemes, which you could call something else, but we'll just stick with raceme here. So flowers, the reason this is such a good family to start with is the flowers are relatively consistent in the numbers of parts they have. And there is not a lot of fusion. In fact, there's only fusion in the female parts. But we're going to typically have 4 sepals. This is arugula. I took these little short sepals off so you could see them. We also have 4 petals, which are pretty obvious here, that form that cross shape. As far as symmetry, most people now say they have radial symmetry. Jepson Manual used to say something else, but now it says radial. Technically, that's a little incorrect because of the stamens. We normally have 6 stamens, and you can sort of see 4 of these longer ones that are in the center, and I can see 1 of the 2 outer short ones. That's the usual case, although sometimes you have 2 stamens or 4 stamens, but usually it's 4 long ones plus 2 shorter ones that are on the outside. This bad picture I put in here because I was just delighted to see the hummingbirds going after nectar from the arugula flowers. All right, I got back to the stamens a little ahead there, but let's go back to the petals because we talked about 4 sepals. 4 petals would be next. 4 petals, they are typically clawed, which means you have a narrow, skinny part. This is what attaches down to the receptacle of the flower. And then you have a part that usually is at 90 degrees that is expanded, and we call that the limb. So we call these petals clawed. And here, the stamens that I already started to talk about. Generally, we have these 4 inner, 1, 2, 3, 4 inner longer ones and 2 shorter outer ones. But again, sometimes that's different. Sometimes you also don't have petals, so there's a little variation in the family. In the center here, we have 1 pistil, 1 female structure made up of 2 fused or connate carpels. And it's typical to have sort of just a small stigma like that. Now the fruit's very distinctive in this family, and Jepson may call it a capsule, but they also use these terms here. Remember, capsule is a fruit that is made of more than 1 carpel. fused together, and it opens in various ways. Well, let's use the more specific terms for this family. We're either talking about a silicle or a silique, okay? Silicles, like these over here, are fruits where the length is less than 3 times the width. So think roughly roundish. Where siliques are sleek. They're long and thin. So technically the length is at least 3 times the width or longer. And what makes these silicles or siliques is their structure more than just the length and width. So I'm going to go to the whiteboard and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so whether we're talking about a silicle or silique, what we're going to have is in the center usually a septum. So between the two valves that would form the outside of our fruit, there is a partition. Some people call it a false septum because it doesn't actually have vascular tissue, but it's a partition. And then our seeds or ovules are going to be attached to the ovary wall around that septum. And so if I do a cross-sectional view in red to the right, we look inside, you'd see the seeds attached along, well, going back to this side, along this side and along this side. Sometimes you can have a thickening around there. But what often happens is the two valves fall off, leaving the septum with maybe some of the seeds attached, and then the seeds fall off. Hopefully that makes sense. My main concern for you is understanding it's got two valves with a septum in the middle. We either call them silicles if they're short or siliques if they're sleek. In any case, I just wanted to go back to this picture. You can see here this line. This is where the septum would be attached inside, and the seeds are also attached there. If you remember our terms about where seeds and ovules are attached, the placentation, this would be parietal placentation. If you haven't covered that yet, don't worry about it. You'll get to it. Okay, so let's go on, and I want to show you some native plants because I was working with taking pictures in my garden, but there are a lot of beautiful mustards. So this one, Velopodium laciniatum, this was out at Mono Lake a couple of years ago, and you can see the 4 linear petals there and the sepals. It's nice raceme inflorescence, and these are their fruits. Definitely siliques, and in this particular species, they are spreading. Rock cress, really common genus with a lot of pretty little flowers. Jewel flower, mountain jewel flower, actually, I should have put that in there. The Streptanthus tortuosus, a lot of people are familiar with this. This one happens to be from the Eastern Sierra, but you can find it in many other places. What's really distinctive about this plant is the middle cauline leaves, okay, are sessile, that is, there's no petiole on the leaves, and they're also lobed or clasping around the stem, and it's a pretty cool look. Some people call this, I think, shield leaf because of that also, but it's a very beautiful little jewel flower. And you can see the purple sepals, and these are the petals here. Probably my favorite, though, is chocolate drops. Calanthus pilosus, again, this is from Eastern Sierra. Yeah, who could not like something called chocolate drops? But very, very purple sepals here with the much narrower, light colored petals. I unfortunately can't find better pictures because I have lots of pictures of it, but well, organization of pictures is not a strong suit for me. It grows in a lot of open areas, and we tended to find it where fires have happened, which of course makes sense because then it's open and it's a beautiful plant. And I'll just leave you with that, and I hope you've enjoyed our brief romp through the mustard family.